Nothing Personal starts in 30 seconds. It's just business. This is Nothing Personal.
Here you go.
Grasping. That's the Nothing Personal word of the day for Wednesday, March 5th, 2025. Grasping, as in ESPN is grasping for straws. Major League Baseball and ESPN are heading toward a divorce. When you head toward a divorce, a lot of things can happen. You get lawyers, you talk about splitting of assets, you talk about visitation rights with the kids, you talk about who gets what, when, where, how. Some divorces are clean, some are dirty, some take years, some take months, some take days. The thing about a divorce is that you can never calculate in advance what the actions will be of the divorcees once the divorce happens. But often, if you're paying attention, people in the middle of divorce actually telegraph what their next move is going to be, who they're going to be with, what they're going to be doing, how they're going to be doing it. So many leaks are happening with the MLB ESPN package situation, the divorce situation, that I felt it was time to get a few things straight. Number one, there are rumors out there that the flagship ESPN's new DTC service that is being launched with great fanfare, and that Bob Iger, the chairman of Disney, has told you, and Jimmy Pitaro, the president of ESPN, everyone is telling you this is big. This is a major, major revenue driver. It's a major, major share price driver. And the question we've asked ourselves on this show is what exactly will be on the flagship during the course of a summer? So now let's go back months and months ago to shows we were doing during the baseball season, last baseball season, when the bankruptcy of Diamond and Bally's was going on. Do you remember when ESPN talked about wanting to be part of the solution for the bankrupt company? They wanted to get into the world of local rights. That was not just a coincidence that they were saying that. They already knew that they and MLB were heading toward the divorce. So they were preparing to life after the national deal that included home run derby, that included playoff games. And so they said to themselves, let's just keep the door open. Let's make this nice. Let's try to get along. Let's not fight. Let's not go to court. Let's hope that MLB would be interested in a mutual buyout. Let's see if we can upset them enough, but not too much. I know we've all tried that with people. You go right to the edge, and then when you realize you've gone over the line, you hurry up and scurry back. Here's the thing about ESPN getting local rights from teams that it can then use on the flagship, as they say, to help be a solution to the local broadcast revenue issues in baseball. I would assume, as I think about it, that MLB, as part of agreeing to Bally's getting out of bankruptcy, to Diamond getting out of bankruptcy, do you remember that whole go back and search the transcripts? We did numerous shows, segments here on how they climbed out of bankruptcy, the new deal that MLB, as a major creditor of the bankrupt company, in a Chapter 11 had a say and how there was a settlement. And the settlement had a 1-year deal where all of these teams are back on, now it's called FanDuel, back on there for a year. But wouldn't it make sense to you if part of that settlement would be that MLB and the teams would actually control distribution of these games, distribution of the stream? Because MLB's play has been from the beginning, correctly so, to collect all of the teams and get a national streaming deal, making more national revenue, more revenue sharing, trying to quash the size of the disparity between the highest and the lowest payroll, making the Dodgers the sole outlier with their $325+ million TV deal. It's not going anywhere. So it all makes perfect sense that ESPN knew what was coming. ESPN wanted local teams on its flagship, and that MLB would have zero interest. And when I say zero, let me be clear. If ESPN is trying to convince its shareholders through calls with analysts and press releases that they're going to have a deal, that they'll have some way back, some possible way, a détente, I think they don't realize that Major League Baseball is going to move on. Sometimes it can be very hard for one side to recognize that the other side has moved on, wants to move on, did move on. Doesn't mean that there's no love for what was, even though in this case there wasn't. It doesn't mean that it sullies what was. It means that what will be is not what is or what was. That's life. But ESPN does not like losing. All the way back to the John Skipper days. I assure you that they are doing everything they can to try to get baseball during the summer. And so what baseball does in response to that is a chef's kiss. They leak the following things. One, the Wall Street Journal, Jared Diamond and Isabella Simonetti, they get a story that all of a sudden says ESPN was only offering $200 million for the $550 million package. Why would MLB want it out there that ESPN's offer was 200 down from 550? Because it's pretty hard to feel any differently other than, of course, that's the final straw. When that sort of offer comes in and you say to your partner, are you serious, John McEnroe? I'm not even countering to that ridiculous sized offer. See you later. Curry a little public favor. I have no problem with that getting out there through MLB and sources. It makes perfect sense. But then, of course, you have to get out there that there's interest. So we also read at the same time. It's so good. Everybody's trying hard. I give them that. But we read at the same time that NBC, Front Office Sports had an article about this. NBC may be interested in the MLB package. What boxes does NBC check? Are they a broadcast network? Check. Do they reach more households than ESPN? Check. Do they have a streamer? Peacock. Do they have a desire to own Sunday nights given the current package they just negotiated with the NBA? Check. Do they have an NFL Sunday night package? Check. If they add MLB to that, they will be the owner of Sunday night. It will be, if it's Sunday night, you go to NBC and you will see an exclusive live sporting event in one of the big three. God, that makes so much sense, doesn't it? Of course, you also have to put in with any rumors of any potential partners, Netflix and Amazon. It's what players do when they want to get paid in free agency in baseball. They say the Yankees are interested because now they say the Dodgers are interested. Now they say the Mets are interested. You don't really find a lot of rumors with big free agents that say the following. Sources are telling me that the Cleveland Guardians are interested. Doesn't really work that way. but you got to have the big boys interested to push up the price. Netflix and Amazon are the ultimate. Frankly, Amazon is the one that makes me laugh even harder. Every time a team is for sale, Jeff Bezos may be interested in buying it. Why would that be a rumor if you are a seller of a team that Jeff Bezos wants to buy it? I can't think of a reason, but if you give me a minute and maybe a little more experience doing nothing personal shows, maybe I'll come up with why a seller would want Jeff Bezos interested in buying a team. I don't have it yet. Give me a minute. It's only a Wednesday, hump day, a little tired, a little dehydrated. Netflix. We will not get into live broadcast rights. Except we do love live events. We do love showing stuff and getting subscribers. A 1 day a week package and a playoff game or two. That seems perfect. Netflix and Amazon are going to be rumored for every single opening of all time for the rest of time. Oh, I don't want to say for the rest of time, for as long, because who knows what could happen. But I'm going to say for now and into the very far future. So the ESPN MLB situation is unraveling exactly as we thought it would. MLB wanted out. ESPN was going to opt out, which I told you a year ago or 2 years ago that they would re-up, I thought, at $5.50, but get some more stuff in there. Or MLB would finally realize it's time to get out of the relationship and they would go get another partner. MLB is getting another partner. ESPN is desperate for content for the flagship, and you can't run reruns of PTI on the DTC flagship during the summer. Not going to happen. So we're watching the battle of the leaks. We're watching the battle of the information, the battle of the desperate. And who do you have your money on? Were you to take a side? Do you believe there is a company out there, a streaming platform and a broadcast network who would have an interest in broadcasting Major League Baseball during the summer? Or do you believe that ESPN is somehow going to make nice to MLB and say, I've always loved you. I was just gaslighting you, but I'm sorry, I won't do that anymore. I swear to God, you're going to be in the first block of SportsCenter. I swear to God, we're going to really talk about it all the time on all our properties. You have no idea how much McAfee will talk about it as long as he's at ESPN. Nah, not going to happen. 1901. What a great number, isn't it? We've got news on the Aths. So I'll give you all a minute for those of you who are fans in San Francisco and Oakland and the Bay Area, where I've been telling you that I can't believe this team's actually going to get a deal done in Vegas. For all of you in Vegas who are watching, and I do thank all of you in Vegas who are watching, we're going to do a few minutes on the Vegas situation. Because yesterday there was an update. The Aths have said that they will now begin taking season ticket deposits, so you may be placed on the priority list to secure tickets in the new ballpark, which is scheduled to open in 2028. 1901. What does that mean? That means that a ticket sales rep calls you, or you go online, or there's some sort of email you press and click, and you don't get a location because there's no seat numbers, there's no section numbers. Trust me, you don't do that quite yet. You got to wait for the seats to be in. Although you do get a seat design document. So we sort of started numbering the sections at Marlins Park prior to seat installation. But believe me, you can't finish it till seats get installed, because in the real world, when all the seats are put into a new stadium, it's not the exact number that you thought it was. Something happens where there's an extra little room. Oh, we had to put a row of 3 there. Well, that's a crappy odd number. Well, that's how it works. Sorry. All right, let's go walk the ball and start numbering sections, rows, etc. Yes, for those of you who get lost at Marlins Park, not my fault. We had great signage, great numbering of sections and rows and seats. We had colors. Anyway, I don't need to defend my numbering of Marlins Park. However, the Oakland A's new park, the Sacramento Aths new park, 4869. The Athletics' new park in Vegas does not yet have seats. So what you do is you click a link, you put your email in, you put your credit card in and say, charge me $19.01. And if you then buy tickets when tickets are available, season tickets, you will get credited the 1901 toward the purchase of your season ticket. It is hard for me to explain to you how meaningless this step is. There are many people who'd be willing to put $19 down, and that then enables you to have great PR statements and press releases going forward. I guarantee you. I'm going to give you a wait to see here, Coca, that wasn't part of the show. So get your pen out, get your document out. The Aths franchise will have a press release no later than Monday stating how many season ticket deposits they took once they were on sale Friday. Now, of course, the owner could himself write a check for $100, and that counts as 5 right there. There are ways to make announcements seem like tickets are scarce. Hurry up, get online, give the $19. That's a way we can show baseball and banks that we're going to hit the numbers that we projected to hit in attendance. And then I will tell you that it's not that there is an inverse correlation. That would be too harsh and misleading. But you can bet your sweet bippy there is no direct correlation between the number of deposits you get and then the number of tickets, season tickets, you actually sell. The conversion rate is hardly 1-to-1. I put a deposit on a smart car in Florida when they were first coming to the States. This must have been 20 years ago, Coca, or 15 years ago. You can look it up when smart cars were first made available in the United States. Larry Beinfest, the former president of baseball operations, and I went to the dealership and we said, my God, this is the coolest car ever. Let's get a smart car. And so we put the deposit down. And then our wives at the time said, well, that seems like a terrible idea. Since you're on the turnpike, you're on 75, you're on 95, you're on the 826, the 836, the 754, and the 911. Smart cars did not exactly become what they are in Europe, what everyone thought they'd become. And guess what? Did not convert my deposit into a car. Instead, I gave as like a donation the $99 deposit I had to make. All of which is meant to say that the excitement of this announcement has to be quashed by the reality of what it means. Now, the number choice just shows you that I do not understand how that franchise thinks. 1901, $19.01 is a purposeful number. That is a number that is meant to reference the year the franchise was founded in Philadelphia. Philadelphia is the first of what would now be many different places where the franchise has been. And I'm just not sure that people in Vegas give a flying rat's pituitary gland about what year the Aths franchise started. So why not make it $20.28? The stadium's going to open in 2028, isn't it? You could get an extra $1.27 from people per seat. And the number of people willing to pay $19.01 right now for a dollar and a dream are definitely going to be willing to pay $20.28. But then when the stadium is delayed by a year, contrary to what the commissioner said, and everybody else in the project who said, oh, we're on schedule, baby. We're in March. I want them to tell you that it's under a 36-month construction schedule. I want to hear them say it when they give the update tomorrow on construction. Because 36 months is what it takes. I then want them to say that, oh, we're going to be ready in time for April of 2028. And I remind you, the stadium can't be ready for April of 2028. It has to be ready for February of 2028 because you have to do exhibition games. You have to operate the stadium before opening day. You don't just open the doors opening day of a new ballpark and say, oh, I guess we're open for business. And I'm not even talking about the big flush. That's what you do when the stadium's built and you hire school children to come in or people in the community and everyone flushes at the same time, every toilet in the ballpark, to make sure that plumbing is working and you're not blowing up the place or causing a leak. And then you're working every concession stand. You're doing everything, load in, load out. In any case, February of 28 would be the minimum. And that is under 36 months already. The real reason why they didn't want to choose $20.28, I assume, is that they didn't want to have to charge people an extra penny once the stadium gets pushed back to 2029. I guess if they have your credit card, you can write in very small print, should there be a year-long delay in the stadium, we're going to take an extra penny from you. Or maybe they didn't want people to be reminded of the year it was supposed to open. They wanted to be reminded of the year that the franchise first started. There's so much loyalty, obviously, between people in Vegas and when the Philadelphia Athletics started. Maybe I'm being negative, Coca. I don't mean to be negative. I'm not trying to be negative. I'm not trying to tell you that if the Aths moved to Vegas, that I'm not going to admit I had it wrong from the start, because I've been telling you that I just don't see how this stadium gets done in Vegas. But the commissioner keeps telling me it's done. The John Fisher keeps saying it's done. The Las Vegas County Stadium Authority, everybody says it's done. I have this weird thing about things being done. I don't believe anybody who says anything's done until I see it in writing and it's signed, and then I see action. I didn't believe that our stadium was going to be done in time for April of 12 until February of 12, when we actually had it open. It is hard to describe the complexity of building a stadium, and ours was built at $500 million. This one's $1.5 billion. I can't even imagine. Are you going to give $19.01 to get on that list so you can be part of the press release? For all the people listening in Vegas, for all the people who have friends in Vegas, call them up. I want everyone to put $19.01 deposit, because I want to see that press release by Monday, because it's an official wait to see that there will be a press release by Monday with the number of ticket deposits taken by the Aths. Speaking of public financing, Coca?
You know what I want? I want to talk to Samson.
So you want to talk to Samson? Well, do you? DavidSamsonPodcast.com, at David P. Samson on X or Instagram. You can get to me. Believe me, I'm very aware of how easily you can get to me. Dear David, love the show. Listen daily. That is a hell of a way to start a question. It already puts you in the lead. Why is it every time a new stadium needs to be built, they need tax dollars from local citizens? Correct me if I'm wrong, but don't our tax dollars already go to police, security, and discounted utility costs? Also, the NFL has offered huge subsidies in tax dollars from states to build stadiums. I just want to know why they always ask for public money when they're some of the richest people out there. I know you've discussed this before, but maybe could you revisit to help me understand better? Thanks. Love the show. Well, I love you for loving the show and for listening daily. And I would never miss an opportunity to talk about public financing and try to correct some of the misconceptions out there. Money that is used to build stadiums from the public, it does not mean when you get your property tax bill that you've got a part of your property tax bill that states that 1 penny, 10 pennies, 20 pennies, $10 are going toward building a stadium for a rich guy. The way it works is that there are certain things done by your state legislature that have different pockets of money that are generated by different types of people for use of different types of things. So, for example, there is money that goes to police, fire, first responders, public hospitals. That is part of the state income tax, the local income tax, And if you don't have it, it's part of your property tax. It's part of the government budget. There are federal subsidies, or it used to be, for things like that. There has never been a case that I can think of where a ballpark has been built solely on what is called general fund revenue. General fund is what local municipalities generally use to operate all of the general services that you assume are governmental services that you expect to be part of any functioning community. General funds are funded by taxes collected by members of the community or people who do business in the community. The general fund can be used as a backstop, as collateral to money that is borrowed by a public entity, because the public entities borrow money all the time. It's something called a municipal bond. A municipal bond is one of those things like, hey, if I give you $100 to use for police, fire, for various other water, sewer projects that you want to do in your community, will you give me back $110 next year? That would be 10% tax-free muni bond. That would be amazing. Not exactly our interest rates today, but that's the concept. You take money from a private individual, you give it to the public entity, they use it to do stuff, then they pay you back with other bonds they float, and you get an interest rate. It's sort of like a Ponzi scheme. Haven't you ever wondered to yourself off the subject, God, it always feels like this road's under construction. It always feels like it's never done. This project never gets done. Once this part opens, then this part closes. It's always something. Have you ever said that while being a commuter? Has it ever occurred to you the reason why there's perpetual construction is it's part of what the government does? It's part of the government function to keep people working in construction, to keep materials being sold and bought. There are contracts left and right that the government enters into with the private sector to do stuff, not just go to space. So the general fund, which has all this money in it, when you go borrow money, let's pretend that you're borrowing money and you're using your house as collateral. When you go to the bank and say, hey, I need to borrow 15 grand. My house is collateral. It's worth way more than 15 grand. And the bank says, okay, but what else do you have? Do you have a car? What other assets do you have that I could have as collateral in case you don't pay me back my 15 grand? When municipalities go out and float bonds like a municipal bond, but float bonds for the purpose of getting money in that they contribute to the building of a stadium, they are using revenue that is generated by that project, or they're using revenue that's generated by tourists. There's something called the bed tax, a tourist tax, a convention center tax. There's car rental taxes. There's all these different taxes that can be in place. And that money can be bonded because there's an expected revenue stream in the future from that money. The banks look at it and you say to them, hey, we're going to have this many tourists come to Miami every year, no matter what. And those tourists stay in hotels. Those tourists pay a tax when they check out. So this money is going to come back and get paid to you. But if COVID happens or the end of the world happens, then we will use our general revenue as a backstop to that. It almost never gets to that. So for anyone to think that whether it's in Miami or whether it is in Buffalo or all the other places where these buildings are being built, it is not correct that it is money that could have gone to police, fire, first responders to make your electric bill even smaller. But then you asked another part of your question, which is, why is public money used for rich people? And this is a common theme. Billy Corben has it. My friend and great director, Billy Corben, does not believe in public subsidies. There are many people who don't. And my answer to them is public subsidies for rich people have been going on since the beginning of time. It is the government's role to go out and make things, have things that make the community more interesting, more attractive to people moving into the community, to companies moving into the community. Professional sports is one of the things that companies like to have for their employees if they move into a community or stay in a community. So are children's museums. So are parks. So are bike lanes. So are restaurants. So are not prisons. So are not nuclear plants. This should not be a surprise to you that team owners are getting these subsidies because they've got something that the government wants. The local government wants the ability to say they are a professional sports city. That part is not going to change. So I ask you, as you continue to ask these questions, and I appreciate them, the reality about public financing of stadiums, the reality about public tax incentives for people who make movies or people who have law firms or Wall Street firms, they're not going away. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about this is perfect, Coca. We are going to review something about what would happen if professional sports would go away and there wouldn't be any more subsidies. And then we're going to talk about a bad year getting even worse for the Dallas Mavericks. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back. Coca, that was too short. I was laughing during the break because I love how everyone listening and watching this on the Nothing Personal with David Samson YouTube channel, please hit subscribe. Tell your friends about us, please, and listen and download and refresh and unsubscribe and then resubscribe. I don't think you realize that every day for 50 minutes, for now 50 minutes, who knows what the future is, but for now 50 minutes. I don't think you realize the way we do this show. Coke and I talk during the day. We talk at night. We talk every morning. We have a rundown that has some things. And then we just hit go. And I talk to you for the 50 minutes. It did not occur to me that the So You Want to Talk to Samson that we did before the break was related to the movie I'm reviewing after the break. Because after the break, as you know, I watch a movie every day. I also review TV shows. Last night was the finale of Paradise on Hulu. Spoiler alert. Wait, I didn't ask you this, Coca. Get in my ear right now. Can we spoil Paradise or not? Oh, we cannot? All right. Can we tell people what it's about even? Or we can't even do that? Because how do you not explain to people to watch a show with Sterling K. Brown and Juliette Nicholson? How do we not explain to people that it is 8 episodes of perfection, that the 7th episode, or was it the 6th? I think it was the 7th episode, was one of the best episodes of TV I've ever seen. Jason Robards included. But there is a situation that could exist that may or may not be Paradise, that may or may not have professional sports teams. What are the odds of that, Coca, that we're reviewing Paradise right after doing that question? I guess there's nothing I can say except get Hulu. It's that good. It's 8 episodes. They're about an hour, between 45 minutes and an hour each. The concept is that, is it Paradise? Is it not Paradise? What does Paradise mean? The real question that you'll ask yourself while watching this show is there really a class system? If we really had to start over, how would we exactly start over? We see it in movies where we put scaffolding on the Capitol and we have a great speech by Bill Pullman, who is alive, not Bill Paxton. And we say to ourselves that we will persevere and we will start over and everything's going to be great. And then sometimes you end up with Dune. Sometimes you can end up with the Truman Show. But is it really the Truman Show? Once you're done watching Paradise, I'd like to talk to you about it, and I hope that you will contact me to talk about it. Maybe Coco will tell me right now while we're doing the show. When can we spoil Paradise? How long does it have to be before we can talk about what happens in that show? Is it a year? What's the general spoil rule? Coco doesn't have one. He wants me to move on. Nothing personal pick of the day. Coke is so mean in my ears sometimes. I don't think you guys realize that. He runs a tight ship. We had the Warriors +5 versus the Knicks last night. The line ended up as Warriors +1 because I don't know why it ended up +1, because Karl Anthony Towns didn't play and Steph Curry did play, which would be advantage Warriors. And you'd think the way things have been going with me that the Knicks would have kicked their arse. But the Warriors +5 was the correct pick. The Warriors +1 would have been the correct pick because the Warriors won the game. They are HOTTT, by the way. Not like Lakers hot, but when Steph Curry goes to the Garden for 13 years, guess what? He's come out of there a winner 12 out of 13 times. We are 19-24, and our losing streak is a thing of the past. You can't win 2 in a row. Nah, I've used that one already. Tonight, the Cleveland Cavaliers on March 5th. Happy birthday to Vicky Samson, my stepmother, the widow of my father, Alan Samson. Happy birthday. How crazy is it on March 5th, Coca, that the Cavs can clinch a playoff berth if they beat the Heat tonight? It's March 5th. Of course, they've won more than 50 games. They've only lost 10 games. It's done. There's 20 games in a season. They've done it. They're a 50-win team. The Cleveland Cavaliers, where you can't name, don't talk to me about the Marlins and Rockies and White Sox. I want you right now to name 5 Cavaliers, right this very second. Cavaliers -11 over the Butlerless Heat. The Heat are dreadful. We're taking the Cavs -11 in a blowout tonight as the Cavs clinch a playoff berth. They don't pop champagne because they haven't clinched the #1 seed yet over Boston. I'm sorry, Mr. Brockman. Good morning to you. Have a great show out there in California. But I will tell you that you didn't think that the Celtics would be anything other than the greatest team in the history of basketball this year. Well, they're likely not even the greatest team in the Eastern Conference this year. That's when the Cavaliers would celebrate. Still pretty cool, though. The team that's never going to celebrate this year is the Dallas Mavericks. This one, Coca, is one for the ages. Kyrie Irving, we have an update for you. He has torn his ACL. I was thinking to myself, what could it go wrong with the Mavericks season after they won the Western Conference last year? And, they may not have as good a year this year. Luka could get hurt and not spend some time playing for the Mavericks. They may not do well in the playoffs. Miriam Adelson and her son-in-law may be a nightmare. The team may move to Vegas, not. The team may get a new arena, not yet. Texas may allow gambling in their state, not yet. All sorts of things could happen. I didn't really have on my bingo card that they'd trade Luka to the Lakers. Then they'd announce the season ticket price increase. And then the next day, Kyrie Irving would get hurt after Anthony Davis, the guy they traded Luka for, got hurt in his first game and is still out. And now that Kyrie Irving is out, it immediately gets leaked. Anthony Davis may choose to miss the rest of the year to make sure he's fully ready for next year. Boy, that makes being a season ticket holder with the Mavericks that much more exciting. All those home games where nobody's playing and no one cares, and you've shoved it in. What's the expression? You've dialed it in. That's not the expression. What's the word when you've sort of kicked it in? You've given up. Mailed it in. Thank you, Coca. The Mavericks have mailed it in, yet they still are not going to give you a discount on the season tickets. Imagine what you could get for $19.01. Callback alert. Kyrie really is screwed by this torn ACL. I'll tell you that. He has a player option for $44 million that he was not going to exercise. He was going to go for his 5-year, $313 million extension, which I can't believe the Mavericks ever would have signed. That said, who knows what the Mavericks do? I believe I have a wait to see loss here, Coca, that we'd have to check in the document on davidsamsonpodcast.com. Because I believe I had to wait to see that Kyrie Irving would not last the entirety of his Mavericks contract with the Mavericks. I had the wrong guy. It was Luka who didn't last. So Kyrie is not going to get the max extension. There's no chance at all. Kyrie is not going to play enough games where he can't be all NBA. He lost $1 million bonus for 50 games played, 50 wins. He lost $1 million bonus for 65 games played. It's basically a nightmare that he got hurt. I feel terribly for the Mavericks until I read Nico Harrison's statement to you, the fans, through the press. This is good. There aren't words to fully describe who Kyrie Irving is to this team or what he means to us as an organization. Spoiler alert and a little hint for those of you doing statements or speaking in public. You don't start something or even middle or end it with, there are no words to describe. Because there are words, you just may not know them. You may need to study more, be smarter, use a dictionary, a thesaurus, or find some sort of way to articulate your thoughts. But don't say there aren't words to fully describe who Kyrie Irving is. There are. Just choose a couple, and we'll be the judge of whether we agree with the words that you use to describe. By the way, those are called adjectives, but let's not quibble. Kyrie is the heart and soul of this team. Well, that's true because you traded Luka. Do you think that that statement comes out if Irving tears his ACL and Luka's on the team? Do you think Nico still says that Kyrie's the heart and soul of the team? But I digress. But I want you to think about that because this statement got even better. His work ethic and absolute dedication to his craft. Talking about Kyrie Irving. It's cut from the cloth of greats. I know it. I lived it. And I see, this is still Nico Harrison. I see the same ferocity and passion. Those could be the words you could have used in the paragraph above. But again, let's not worry. The same ferocity and passion in him that I saw in Kobe. OMG. Nico Harrison is so desperate. His Q rating is so low. He has such a major job issue because now the Luka trade disaster, Davis out, Irving done, the team, I'm not sure what else could happen to the team, but if I were you, I wouldn't go to games because I'd be afraid that somehow lightning would strike inside the arena. Sorry, Andy, I'm just saying how I feel. What else could define bad karma? As an organization that I was a part of for 16 years, where bad karma felt like, hey, we've had our share. I then got humbled into realizing you can never have your total share because there's always more bad karma to be had. But don't bring it upon yourself. All my thoughts and that of our staff are with Kyrie and his family. Did someone die? We're confident he will come back from this stronger than ever, just like he always has. Boy, that's a rough one when talking about an injury. You don't say that about a healthy player, do you? You say that about a player who's missed a bunch of time for a bunch of stuff. How quickly we forget what was going on during COVID. But again, he's the heart and soul of that Texas city. I'd like to know by a show of hands, as I stare into the abyss of a solo camera, how many of you associate Kobe Bryant with Kyrie Irving? Now, let's level the playing field and be a little macabre about this. Kobe, one of the great players of all time. Let there be no question about that. It is obvious, having read the poem To an Athlete Dying Young, that very often, James Dean, etc., you have a different view or things tend to be frozen in time. You don't see the person age when they tragically die young. I don't believe it's apples to oranges to compare anyone to Kobe who is living. That said, Kyrie Irving and Kobe in the same sentence? It's laughable to me. It sounds so desperate. Desperation. Desperado. Why don't you hear? 'Cause I feel. That was the Eagles song that I don't know the words to, but I pretend that I did by that microphone out. Desperation. I'm going to spritz myself with it as we approach the end of our deal, Coca. I mean, listen, it was awful announcing said on that Metalark Media's deal with DraftKings is up in a couple months. So I guess that's us too. So desperation. Nah, I don't have that cologne. I've got Tracker Noir. Desperation would describe the NFL and HBO as they tried to find a team to do Hard Knocks. Do you recall us talking about that yesterday by chance? Do you recall us saying that Bill Belichick and the University of North Carolina Tar Heels are going to be featured on Hard Knocks? And do you recall me telling you that his girlfriend must have been super psyched about that, and a big part of it because she was going to get screen time, and how funny it would be to watch her walk into the X's and O's meetings and the recruiting visits and everyone to say, man, my coach is the coolest guy in the world. Look what he's pulling. Are you understanding and remembering what we talked about? It took one day for it all to be canceled. First, it started with a little leak yesterday that there were some owners in the NFL unhappy that Bill Belichick and the Tar Heels were going to be the focus of NFL Films' Hard Knocks offseason. And that was the beginning of the end, because then it got announced that the deal fell through. Do you know how a deal falls through? Two ways. One, the subject of the documentary wants too much control in the editing room and over the final project. Or two, the wife of the main head coach wants to be in every episode, every scene, and possibly, and I don't want to sully your reputation, I don't know her, she could be the coolest person with no agenda. I have no issue at all with May-December romances, either direction. Do whatever you want. But let's not pretend that she would have no interest at all in any sort of publicity. I think we understand from the award shows that that's not accurate. So, do you think there's a chance that she wanted a little bit power and prestige and screen time, and NFL Films said no? Or do you think it's possible the NFL owners didn't want Bill Belichick or the Tar Heels in any way to be the subject of anything because A, it's college, and B, Belichick is not exactly proving to be a friend of the court. And when I say the court, you know I'm talking about the field, the owners, the commissioner's office. So what is Bill Belichick going to do? Well, you can bet your sweet bippy that he's going to find a Philip Seymour Hoffman Along Came Polly situation. At the very least, there will be cameras around. I can promise you that the Tar Heels will have some sort of documentary made about themselves, some sort of story where Bill Belichick and his current girlfriend and everything surrounding the Tar Heels is going to be a part of it. Just because NFL Films isn't doing it doesn't mean that you can't hire your own crew. Honey, I promise you, you're going to be a star. I swear to God. I want to say God. I swear to God, you're going to be a superstar. Let's pick out outfits. Let's go shopping, babe. Let's tell our story. He wants to stay in the media. It's just not going to be on Hard Knocks. So what does Hard Knocks do? They got a bit of a problem. Hard Knocks has no professional football teams who want to be a part of it. They've gone to all 32 teams because they've got a list of the teams they want to use. Then when that list is a no, they then go down the list until NFL Films gets together and says, you know, I can't sell a Hard Knocks on the blankety blanks. Pick the most boring team out there. Although in football, I could give you a story about all 32 teams. But Coca, just think of one of the 32 teams that you would say no one would have one care about what happens. I'm trying to think who that would be. Maybe the Jets? Although with New York, you'd always want the Jets or the Giants. If Aaron Rodgers went to the Giants, you could do the Giants again. Back-to-back Jacks with Aaron Rodgers and the newly released Devontae Adams all going to the Giants. But anyway, you go down 32 teams and it doesn't work out. It doesn't mean that the program Hard Knocks is over. It means Hard Knocks offseason takes a one-year hiatus. They're not going to switch to a different college. They're not going to switch to an XFL team, a USFL team, a CFL team, or an NBA team. They are better served by letting it go for now and then revisiting the series if they can get a team to cooperate. And if not, that's the end of the series. There was no reason for Hard Knocks to do college as part of the NFL program. Hard Knocks College could be a separate entity, but it shouldn't start off as a booby prize when all 32 NFL teams said no to start with. You want to start a new show with strength, with excitement. They thought they had it with the Tar Heels, and it turns out that a deal is not a deal till the deal is completely signed. And people have a tendency to leak deals that aren't signed in order to apply pressure to get them signed, or to apply pressure to have them not signed at all. In the battle of the leaks that we are so apt to talk about on Nothing Personal, we started the show with ESPN and MLB. We talked about Nico Harrison's statements, leaks about the Mavericks, etc. We end it with UNC, and they're all for the same thing. It's just business. See you tomorrow. This is Nothing Personal.